Okay, welcome in. I'm 5 days behind on my hockey, so instead of going through every single goal and every single highlight, I'm just going to go all the scores. And once I get up to date for all of Friday's games, then I'll take a look at the standings. So on Monday, we had a total of 6 games. Montreal Canadiens defeated the Buffalo Sabres 4-3 in overtime. The Washington Capitals defeated the Ottawa Senators 5-4 in a shootout. The Florida Panthers won a nail biter over their state rivals against the Lightning 2-1 in regulation. A Battle of New York was won by the Rangers one sidedly. 4-0 would be the final score in this game. The San Jose Sharks finally ended their their long road trip on a high note, defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs 3-2 in a shootout. The Chicago Blackhawks stunned the Los Angeles Kings 5-1. On Tuesday, March 4th, there were a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. So these were the games that really surprised. I think this, like, on this particular date, there's a lot of teams that I needed to lose, and they somehow managed to lose, which was mind blowing. So Nashville went into Boston and pulled off a huge win, 6-3. The San Jose Sharks, who played the night before, beat the Leafs, and then they would go into Buffalo and triple up on the Sabres 6-2. The Carolina Hurricanes would win 2-1 in a very close game against the Red Wings. The Blue Jackets would the Blue Jackets would lose 6-2, I should say, to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Calgary Flames would defeat the Philadelphia Flyers 6-3. The New York Islanders would beat the Winnipeg Jets 3-2. The Dallas Stars would beat the New Jersey Devils 4-3, and the Colorado Avalanche would defeat the Penguins 4-1. The Edmonton Oilers would lose a huge game against their division opponent, the Ducks 6-2. And the last game from Tuesday, the Minnesota Wild would defeat the Seattle Kraken 4-3. So being a Habs fan, I needed the Red Wings to lose, the Blue Jackets to lose, and Sens to lose, and the Bruins to lose, and all four teams just so happened to do it. I remember when that happened, I'm like, oh my God, really? All these teams that I needed to lose actually did? It was crazy. All right, Wednesday, March 5th, we had a total of 5 games on tap. So the first game took place in New York as the Rangers played host to the Washington Capitals. As you can see on the score, the Capitals would win by a score of 3-2 in overtime. The Chicago Blackhawks would lose in overtime to the Ottawa Senators 4-3. The Vegas Golden Knights would defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs 5-2. The Vancouver Canucks would beat the Ducks. Hey, it's the Battle of the Yucks. 3-2 in regulation. The St. Louis Blues would defeat the Los Angeles Kings in a shootout 3-2. And that takes care of Wednesday's games. Thursday, March 6th. The Montreal Canadiens were in Edmonton. I actually went to this game. It was a crazy game. The one thing I will say as a quick little side note is that there were a lot of Montreal fans in Edmonton, and every time the Oilers fans cheered "Let's go Oilers," immediately the fans from Montreal cheered "Go Habs Go." And I'm not gonna lie, I was so proud to be there and to have see so many Montreal fans. It was unreal. Even though they lost in overtime, it was a very fun game to watch. The Detroit Red Wings lost to the Utah Hockey Club 4-2. So again, even though Montreal lost against Edmonton, the fact that Detroit, a team that they're chasing, lost was huge for me in my books. The Tampa Bay Lightning would defeat the Buffalo Sabres 6-5. The Florida Panthers would beat the Blue Jackets 3-0. Again, another team that Montreal is chasing, and the fact that they lost was even bigger than what I had hoped for and anticipated. The Philadelphia Flyers dropped their game to the Winnipeg Jets 4-1. The Carolina Hurricanes would defeat the Boston Bruins 3-2. The Nashville Predators would beat the Seattle Kraken 5-3. The Dallas Stars would beat the Calgary Flames in overtime 3-2. And the Avalanche and Sharks game was basically like a football score. 7-3 would be the final from Denver. So again, I needed Boston to lose, I needed Philly to lose, I needed Detroit to lose, I needed Columbus to lose. And what are the odds 2 times in 2 days or 3 days that the teams I needed to lose actually lost? It was crazy. Now for Friday's game, there was a total of 6 games on Friday's tab. The first game took place in New Jersey as the Devils played host to the Winnipeg Jets. You can see the score was quite one-sided. The Jets would defeat the Devils 6-1. The Washington Capitals would defeat the Detroit Red Wings 5-2. Again, another team that Montreal is chasing. The Utah Hockey Club would fall short against the Chicago Blackhawks 4-3 in the overtime frame. The Vancouver Canucks would defeat the Minnesota Wild 3-1. The Vegas Golden Knights would shut out the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-0. And the last game from Friday took place in Anaheim as the Ducks played host to the Blues, and they dropped a close one 4-3. All right, now I'll take a look at the standings in the wild card position. So, starting in the Atlantic Division, let's see if I can bring this back a tad bit so you can actually see the teams. Let's see if I can tilt the tablet. There we go. So the Florida Panthers are back in first place. I think it's going to come down to, well, you can see how close that race is. 3 points are separating 3 teams. The Florida Panthers are 39-21-3. They have 81 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in second place with a record of 38-21-3. They have 79 points. And the Tampa Bay Lightning are 37-21-4. They have 78 points. So as I previously said, only 3 points are separating third place from first. In the Metropolitan Division, the Washington Capitals are still on top with a record of 41-14-8. They have 90 points. The Carolina Hurricanes are 37-22-4. They have 78 points. They're 12 points back of Washington. And the New Jersey Devils are 33-25-6. They have 72 points. There we go. The 2 teams in the wild card, as you can see on your screen right now. The Columbus Blue Jackets have a record of 30-24-8. They have 68 points. They're only 4 points back in New Jersey. So if the Blue Jackets happen to win 2 or 3 games in a row, and the Devils, who are reeling, happen to lose 2 or 3 in a row, these 2 teams are pretty close in the standings. The Ottawa Senators have a record of 31-25-5. They have 67 points. They're 11 points back of Tampa Bay. So I would say if you're trying to chase a playoff spot, the wild card is more likely than not. And the rest of the Eastern Conference looks like this, and it's a lot closer than what a lot of people think. The New York Rangers are just on the outside looking in with a record of 31-26-5. They have 67 points. But again, if the Rangers win and the Blue Jackets happen to lose, the Rangers could find themselves back in a playoff position, and the Blue Jackets could be on the outside looking in. So this is very, very close, to say the least. Montreal, they have a record of 30-26-6. They're only 1 point back of Ottawa. So again, if Montreal wins, Ottawa loses, Montreal could be in, Ottawa can be out. It's so crazy how close this race is for the last 2 spots of the wild card position. The Red Wings have a somewhat similar record to Montreal. They just have 1 more loss, 30-27-6. They have 66 points. Again, they're just 1 point back of the playoff spot. The Bruins find themselves 3 points out of a playoff spot with a record of 28-28-8. That's a lot of 8s in their records, respectively. They have 64 points. The Islanders are 28-26-7. They have 63 points. They're 4 points back of the playoff spot. The Philadelphia Flyers are 27-28-8. They have 62 points. They are 5 points out. The Penguins are 9 points back with a record of 24-31-10. The Buffalo Sabres, unfortunately, still have the worst record in the Eastern Conference with a record of 24-31-6. They have 13 points. So I think it's safe to say that the teams like the Sabres and the Penguins, and I might even throw the Flyers in that mix as well, are more than likely going to be looking on they are more than likely going to be outside of the playoff picture than in, unless all 3 teams, or all 2 of those 3 teams, happen to go on a crazy run for the last 20 games or so of the season. But Even the Islanders are 4 points back. The Bruins are 3 points back. I would say that between Columbus and um, Detroit, one, two, three, four, five. Though 5 of those teams are probably really serious about making the playoffs. The Bruins are selling players off like it's nobody's business. So I would be surprised if they made a run, even though they're only 3 points out. I did not see them being sellers at the trade deadline, considering if they win 2 more games, they could be right back in the picture. So again, there's always a business side of it that I will never understand. All right, so that takes care of the Eastern Conference. Now we'll take a look at the Western side of things. Okay, so let's see if I can get both the divisions in place. There we go. So the Winnipeg Jets still have the best record in the National Hockey League with a record of 44-16-4. They have 92 points. Even if they do happen to finish at first place in that division, um, I'm going to be honest. I still am one of those doubters, only because I've said this in a lot of my videos that they've haven't made it to the second round since 2018. 2019 they lost to the Blues in the first round. 2020 they lost to Calgary in the play-in round. 2021, actually that's a lie. 2021 was the last time they made it to the second round of the playoffs, but that was when they had the All-Canadian division. They would sweep the Oilers in the first round before losing to Montreal in the second round. 2022 they missed the playoffs. 2023 they lost to Vegas in the first round, and obviously last year they would lose to the Avalanche in the first round as well. So for the Jets, the pressure's on. Like, you can't be the Western version of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You can't. You can't make the playoffs all the time and lose in the first round. They need to make a serious run. They need to make it to the conference final at minimum, and obviously a Stanley Cup appearance for the first time in this organization's tenure, I'm sure would be on their bucket list as well. The Dallas Stars, they have a record of 41-19-2, and after that trade with Mikko Rantanen, they are going to be the team that's probably most dangerous in the Western Conference. Even if the Jets happen to win their first round matchup, say against a wild card team, and Dallas ends up playing Colorado and winning that matchup, which, let's be realistic, is more than likely going to happen than not. If Winnipeg has to go up against Dallas in the second round of the playoffs, if I was a betting person, I would definitely bet on Dallas. Doesn't matter how many more points Winnipeg has by the end of the season. I think Dallas just has more depth on their team, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them go to 3 straight Western Conference Finals. So I briefly talked about the Avalanche. 37-24-2 is their record. They have 76 points on the season. They're 8 points back at Dallas. Yes, technically, like I said, a lot of teams, they got 20 games left, so 20 games could be 40 points, but you're not guaranteed to get 20 straight wins. So if I'm the Colorado Avalanche, I'm sure they'd be content being in the top 3. This way they don't have to travel and play teams in the Pacific Division, for example, or have to go and play the best team in the Central Division. But if this is where the top if this is the top how the top 3 in the Central Division finish, it's more than likely that'll happen than not. The Avs, they could be one and done. They could make the playoffs, but if they got to go up against the Dallas Stars, that's going to be a tough matchup. They played them last year and lost in 6 games. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same outcome this time around. In the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights have a 6-point lead. They have a record of 38-18-6. They have 82 points. The Edmonton Oilers are in second place with a record of 36-22-4. They have 76 points. And the Los Angeles Kings round out the top 3 with a record of 31-20-9. They have 71 points. It's looking more and more likely that the Oilers are going to finish in second place for the 4th straight year, and it's looking more than likely the Kings are going to finish in third place for the 4th straight year, which means this would be the 4th year in a row that the Oilers and Kings would potentially meet in a first round series. I'm sure they're getting sick of seeing of each other, especially the Kings, considering they haven't won a playoff series against the Oilers in that 3-year span. All right, the 2 teams in the wild card look just like this. I'm not surprised Minnesota dropped down, considering that the Avs are on a bit of a roll. The Wild are in the first wild card spot with a record of 36-23-4. But just like I always say, If they win one game and the Avs happen to lose, they could easily switch positions. I think it's probably safe to say that it's more likely than not that both the Avs and the Wild make it to the playoffs, considering they have a 7 point lead over the Vancouver Canucks. Speaking of the Canucks, they have the second wildcard spot as we speak with a record of 29, 22, and 11. They have 69 points on the season. They're only 2 points back of LA. So if Vancouver happens to win, say, 2 games in a row and LA happens to lose 2 in a row, Vancouver could bump up into third place. And imagine if the Oilers and the Canucks played for a second year in a row in the playoffs. I think it'd be quite heated, to say the least. All right, so the teams that are on the outside looking in look just like so. If I can scroll up, let's see if I can scroll up and show the team on the bottom. Yeah, I technically can. All right, so the Calgary Flames are just 1 point out of a playoff spot with a record of 29, 23, and 10. They have 68 points. Obviously, a win for Calgary and a loss for the Canucks in their next game, respectively. And these two teams can easily switch positions. The St. Louis Blues are 1 point back as well. They have a record of 31, 27, and 6, 68 points. So obviously, if the Blues happen to win and the Canucks happen to lose, the Blues could find themselves back into a playoff position for the first time in a long time. The Utah Hockey Club, you could almost say they're kind of right there. They're only 3 points back of the playoff spot. So if they happen to win 2 in a row, and say the Blues, the Flames, and Canucks happen to somehow lose 2 or 3 in a row, Utah could be right there in the mix as well. Now the rest of the teams, from the Ducks all the way down to the Sharks, I think they are more than likely done for the year. The Ducks are 8 points out of a playoff spot. And this late in the season, I just think it's too little too late for them to make a bit of a run because they'd have to win 5 games in a row. And I've said this in a lot of videos, and it doesn't just apply to hockey, it applies to any other sport. But if you're in the standings, if you're down in the standings and you have to rely on teams ahead of you to lose, you're probably not doing something right because you should have been winning more games rather than concentrating on other teams, hopefully losing to other teams. So the Ducks are 27, 28, and 7. They have 61 points. The Seattle Kraken are 26, 33, and 4. They have 56 points. They're 13 points out. The Nashville Predators, I can't say enough negative things about them. 23, 32, and 7. They have 53 points. The Chicago Blackhawks are 20, 35, and 8. They have 48 points. And then I'm going to scroll up just so you can see the Sharks at the bottom. They have a record of 17, 38, and 9. They have 43 points. All right. I'm finally caught up on the standings, and I'm finally caught up on the scores for the National Hockey League. I do plan on doing a video tomorrow, and hopefully I'll be able to show you some highlights because I really like showing when players score, and we'll see how things go from here. All right, that's going to take care of this recap from Monday straight through until Friday of this past week. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.